I wanted to say a little hello to someone I met yesterday. I was in Long Beach and I went to the beach festival, performed, took a medical marijuana edible, took a Molly through water. Then I went to McDonald's. And at McDonald's,
that must have been the best.
The guy there named Tyren, a black guy. I love black guys. He went, right. And then I said, yeah. He's like, oh no, I'm sorry, man. It's Greg Alba. I was like, oh shit, you're really up to date with the channel. He asked for a shout out. Here's what I wanted to mention in my shout out. McDonald's has this thing recently where you can do 24 hours, all day breakfast. And I ordered 2 hash browns. And a lot of ketchup. Half of the ketchup packets were Mexican salsa, which I never asked for. At one point, I put some salsa on my sausage McMuffin, and it was a really spicy sausage McMuffin. It made me very uncomfortable. I didn't enjoy the sandwich. Then you know what I thought would really make this better? I'll just eat my next hash brown, which wasn't in the bag, but on the receipt.
Wow, they stole a hash brown from you.
So you say you're a fan, Tyron?
Oh.
I feel like you have to take me down. Anyway, here's our review for Ghostbusters. Hello there, Ghostbusters fans. My name's Greg.
And my name's John.
I'm a little sunburned today. I was at the beach all day yesterday. Anyway, we're going to talk about Ghostbusters 2016. Now, as critics, I got to establish up front that at first, when I saw the trailers for this, I thought it was going to be a piece of shit. Doo-doo. Poop. What I am here today to tell you right now, up front, I was pleasantly surprised by this film. I had a great time watching it. I thought it was a really, really fun time. The cast I thought was great. If we're gonna talk about, like the biggest worry, I thought that this was where they really solved it.
Controversy, the most hammered on talking point.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that we got a female Ghostbusters movie. Because I first thought this would have been better if they did it as a sequel instead of just can the whole thing. However, after watching this film, I'm like, okay, these guys this is not female Bill Murray, female Dan Aykroyd. It's like, they're the representation of that archetype in a way, but they're still very different though, the personalities.
A kooky bunch of colorful characters, and there's a balance of some of them are more broad and some of them are more straight, and they're a believable team. It's 4 comedians that we like come together, just like the first time.
You know what I like about what the cast did too is everyone keeps saying that Kate McKinnon and Leslie Jones steal the show. While I do think they are more highlighted in terms of the comedy, I like that Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy didn't try to outshine them, because you still feel like they are the leads of the film. Well, but you got these other characters who are there for the comedic purposes primarily,
Well, yeah, it gives them the chance to shine as the comedy of the movie, and I appreciated that because we've seen Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy both play big, broad characters.
And we've seen them work together before, too,
Yeah, so I thought this was cool to see them play, still kooky, but more straight, more subtle characters. Having them be really immersed in their science, too.
What boomed Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy was Bridesmaids. And they're very different characters in Bridesmaids. And I feel like people forget that, because when you watch this, I'm like, hey, I really believe this new dynamic, this new relationship, with these characters. I'm not thinking this is different than what I last saw from these guys too.
Yeah.
And what I gotta say too is I love what they did with Leslie Jones, because I know the backstory when it came with in the original Ghostbusters, they wanted to cast Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy couldn't do it, so then they cut out the character a lot, the black character, and then they put in Ernie Hudson barely in the film, and they kind of just put him in the background. I like that when this time they're like, okay, well, it's all female cast, we'll get a black character. And I like how they, most people are walking out saying, she really did shine in this film.
Yeah.
And kudos to the blacks. Right?
Don't say it that way.
Kudos to the blacks.
Don't say it that way.
It's a positive comment.
Sure.
Kudos to the blacks. Kate McKinnon, I could see people having issues with if you're kind of on the fence about her, because she is kind of doing her own thing every scene.
She is the kookiest character, but I don't know, there's something so kind of assured about the way she played it that, especially when the movie starts to hook, because it took me maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes to really just lose myself in the groove of the movie. Because I thought the opening was really strong, and then when they start to introduce the story, it's just a little kind of bumpy at first. And then once the movie hit the groove, like, that's when everybody started to click.
Yeah, I felt like once, like, okay, we see the first ghost now.
Yeah.
And then that all started happening. I felt like the film had a great flow throughout. I prefer the first half over the last half. I like the journey of them, you know, coming together and figuring this all out. And, you know, like, to get this out of the way, yeah, okay. The structure, especially the first half, is very similar to the structure of the original Ghostbusters film.
Yeah.
You know, Kristen Wiig's character, she's a scientist who has, like, a interesting ghost, but kind of just doesn't really go after it, and that's kind of like how Bill Murray was. It was like, whatever, you know.
Because with Kristen Wiig, like she clearly had some interest in this, and she's trying to bury it so that she can have a legitimate career.
Yeah. And Melissa McCarthy is like the Dan Aykroyd character in that sense, that she's like the super scientist. Like
and super invested in ghosts. And, and,
but then you got, and I like how Kate McKinnon was like the representation of the Harold Ramis character, but so different, because they could have easily made her like, I'm really straightforward, I'm really like just done what Harold Ramis did, but she's just so wacky.
She's totally wacky, and she's also like the tech head who builds everything. Like she'll say something kooky and be funny, but then the next scene she'll be like, I built this crazy shit. Even she, in being that wacky character, is still like a really cool character, because she's, you know, a tech wizard.
The structure of it was similar in the sense that, like, they don't really believe, they see a ghost. Now Kristen Wiig is like, oh, this is real.
Yeah, like they take time to basically convince the characters to go on this journey.
Yeah, and then similar stuff starts to happen, but it's not so obvious and so in my face where I'm like, this is a New Hope. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of okay with that concept. It's like, yeah, you're not fully doing a remake, but you are borrowing some structural things to get this going. You're borrowing, you know, the steps that worked, but they also put a lot of their own flavor and a lot of their own character on it.
But I was glad that if they're going to do this, that they did make it a different film and not a sequel. Because at first I was like, I thought this should have been a sequel. And then after watching it, and then, you know, like, yeah, you get the cameos from Bill Murray, Aykroyd, Hudson, and, of course, I don't remember her name.
Sigourney Weaver and Andy
Sigourney Weaver.
Fox.
Yeah, that's her name. Okay. Yeah. So you do get your cameos, and although the cameos I didn't really think were that funny, it was still cool to establish that this is a separate movie, a separate universe. Because it still felt like most of the original cast is still around. So if they wanted to, they could still do it. Ghostbusters Part 3 with the original cast if they wanted to. Also, it's cool to have this other world of the female Ghostbusters, because I just gotta keep saying, I love how these female Ghostbusters are not female mimics of the original cast. They're super different people, which makes it a comedy worth being on board for.
For as much arguing and discussion as there's been about Lady Ghostbusters, the movie itself doesn't call a lot of attention to it. It doesn't spend time going, they're women. Like,
I love that too.
You just have 4 women who happen to be the people getting together to do this. They happen to be those people, and that's a really nice thing about the movie, because that does allow you just to kind of get to know these new characters. It's like, the structure is familiar, but the characters do feel new. I've heard a lot of people say that the movie kind of borrows tonally from the real Ghostbusters cartoon, too. I like that they also brought that in, because it seems like this Ghostbusters loves Ghostbusters just as much as everybody else does.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, when I watched it, I was like, they clearly cared about this. And even in the designs, like, I thought the world they drew was cool, and it doesn't look like everything else right now.
As I was saying earlier, the second half of the film, though, what I recall from feeling it was, I did feel that the fun started to kind of wither away a little bit. I felt it got a little too caught up in plot, because I felt like the first half was very much like the interactions and a lot of the fun with the characters and the discoveries. And the last half got more focused on its villain, who was okay.
I like the villain. He's not like big
like
and garish.
Villain.
But I think it's an appropriate villain, because
it's appropriate because you don't want the villain to steal the show.
And without giving away too much, the way they use the villain allows for other things in the movie to kind of get even better.
Yes,
so,
I'll say that. I'll say that too. And Chris Hemsworth, though.
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth, I thought was really fucking funny. I thought he was hilarious. At first, I was like, okay, but then like 2 seconds later, I was just cracking up at what he was doing.
Like, he's so funny in this, and I was actually really happy about his performance in this. We've seen the Thor movies and stuff like that, and he's been doing these either action or heavy dramas, and I'm like, I'm happy he mixed it up and seems like he had the most fun in the world playing the dumbest, most self-assured. He nailed it.
My favorite lines are probably from him.
Yeah,
I think my favorite lines are from him.
And again, that's a character that they use really wisely because, you know, with these kinds of comedies, especially these banter-based, you know, these kind of broad comedies, and especially, you know, in some of Paul Feig's other movies, it's easy to get lost in, like, crazy banter and outlandish jokes. They use Chris Hemsworth for the most wacky stuff and just the right amount.
When it comes to, like, stupidity and wackiness,
yeah,
he's the most ridiculous for sure.
But that's the thing I like too, and that.
But it adds.
Like, it seemed like he had a great time doing this, and it's always nice to watch an actor have a really good time with a role.
I'm getting a phone call. Hold on, guys. Ghostbusters. Hello?
Ghostbusters.
Oh, you're here. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Just wait out front. I'll grab you in a minute.
And going back to Kate McKinnon, it's like Kate McKinnon is also like heightened and wacky, but she doesn't play it like a character who says wacky things. It's what that character would say after a while.
Yes.
Like she plays that like a fully realized character, and she's terrific at that.
I thought the action sequences in the finale.
Yeah.
You know, like at first when I saw the trailer, I was a little worried about that. I was gonna go like so Hollywood on it. Mm-hmm. I honestly liked the finale. I thought it was a cool like going through New York kind of adventure, and I thought some of the action scenes were really fucking cool. Like they looked really cool because in the first Ghostbusters, that's something I actually never thought about were the action sequences. I never viewed it as having action. I just viewed it as, like, them like doing some type of like fire hose thing with the what's it called?
The proton pack?
Yeah, the proton pack. In this one, Kate McKinnon is able to design several kinds of gadgets. Yeah. So we get to see the different characters use several different kinds of gadgets, and it makes for much cooler action sequences. I like that.
Well, yeah, they expanded it.
Yeah, I never thought that Ghostbusters could have really cool action scenes, you know? Like,
when the action goes down, like, they don't skimp, it's not like a horror movie, but they do not skimp on the creepiness and the menace of the ghosts. It's like, it's still fun and funny, but when they gotta fight, like, you do get a sense for the peril.
Yeah.
And it's not too big. And they do take a lot of time to show the city and what's going on. It's not like a lot of the other blockbusters where they just decimate all of New York and, you know, it's lots of alien monsters. It's like they centralize everything. Because that shot in the trailer with the big vortex kind of worried me. But when it came up in the movie, I was like, that's really cool. Yeah,
I thought the movie was well structured. I mean, in the second half, it felt to kind of slow down a little bit. In terms of a disappointment, I would say the cameos, specifically Bill Murray's cameo. What I liked was they like tried making him more of a character than cameo. I still didn't like. I was like, there was a lot of jokes, like especially Bill Murray's character was making, where I was like, no one's laughing, and I'm not either.
I didn't feel like he was trying to make jokes. Like that was a character I didn't feel like was trying to be funny.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean the cameos aren't like like they just show up.
Dan Aykroyd is pretty big though.
It's pretty great. Yeah. His I did like sort of whoop at, but
oh really?
Yeah, I think they slipped them in nicely, like nicely enough to be like but also like hey, and we're doing something kind of cool with it.
It was more than them just saying hi.
Yeah, exactly, or popping in for like a very blatant huh. Like,
yeah.
It wasn't like Stan Lee. I actually thought the second half picked up momentum for me. Because, like, I like that the first half took time to introduce everybody naturally.
It's weird. It's the first half of the second half that kind of slowed down for me.
Okay.
That's when I felt a lot of the comedy started withering away, and that's when...
The situation gets more serious.
But then it started it gets more serious, but then it starts picking up the fun a lot more again, you know?
Yeah.
So I just felt like there's a small portion. Now, okay, sum it up. In comparison to the original... Do I like it more than the original? I don't. Is that bad? No, because I still think it's a wonderful addition.
It's a perfect new Ghostbusters.
It's better than Ghostbusters 2. I think this was a really fun film, and I think over time it'll be even more appreciated.
Well, and I feel like the smart thing about the way they approach this is I don't feel like you have to. If they straight up remade Ghostbusters, like note for note, I think you would have to kind of have that argument. And this is like, it's kind of in its own universe, and you know, it's the perfect 2016 Ghostbusters. Yeah. It's 2016. It's
the 2016 Ghostbusters. Yeah. I say I ain't afraid of no Ghostbusters 2. That's my consensus.
I would love a Ghostbusters 2. I ain't afraid of no fan backlash.
Sony paid us to like the movie. Thank you.
Thanks, Sony.
Thanks, Sony, for paying us $5,000 to recommend the Ghostbusters female movie.
That's right. We actually haven't even seen it.
We haven't seen it. We're just saying what everyone else has said on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's
if
right.
you're new to the channel, you can subscribe today and become a reject. Maybe if you want to. Who knows? I don't care. Yes, I do. I like the number. Sean, Jerry, Bloomhouse, Facebook.